Okay, so welcome to the quick hamstring series. These are some stretches that you can do every day just to start loosening them up and starting to build that strength and that mobility in the backs of the legs. So number one is we never want to stretch cold. So either you've already been on a run, a walk, you've already done another workout, or if you haven't had a chance to do anything, you're going to go into some glute bridges. So I'll quickly show you your glute bridges. Lying down on your back. Feet are hip width apart. You're gonna lift your hips all the way up and lower all the way down. So I'd want you to do this for at least a minute. And then when you get to the top, hold it up there. And you can play around here. Maybe the arms reach up towards the ceiling if you want to make this a little bit harder. Maybe you lift your heels and lower your heels. Whatever you can do to start to warm up the backs of the legs. And then once you've done that for at least a minute or two and you feel that you've got the body moving, we'll go into your stretches. So the best way to approach hamstrings is we're trying to create length between your glute and your hamstring. A lot of people, when they go for a hamstring stretch, let's say their leg is here and they feel tightness, they round their back and they put all of the pressure up here. Whereas you get a better hamstring stretch if instead of rounding your back, you stuck your hips back and you got that extension coming from the pelvis. So everything that we do today, I want you to be super cautious of, are we feeling your back or are we getting that arch from the back, and are we getting your pelvis to actually extend the back of the hamstring without kind of injuring or putting unnecessary pressure on your mid to lower back. So this first exercise is a more active mobility drill that I find really helps me loosen things up. So you're going to start on your hands and knees. This can be done from the forearms, but if you do have wrist issues, I'd encourage you to grab onto weights instead, just because it's going to be a better shape up here on your hands. You tuck your toes, you hover your knees. So we are adding some secret ab work in here, but essentially what we're doing is we're showing your body that it's safe in this bent leg position. You're then going to straighten all the way back into this downward dog. Now in a yoga class, your downward dog would be a little bit further back. So we're actually in a more shallow downward dog, which is going to be more hamstring dominant. Now if you're here and you just feel like you're stuck up here and you can't get back at all, bend your knees slightly, shift your hips back. Imagine like someone's behind you and literally pulling your hips back. For 3, 2, 1, you come back to your hover, and I want you to hold the hover for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You push it back, and think priority is hips up, heels down. If you need to bend your knees, that is totally fine. But I want my back to be as flat, almost arched, versus rounded here. Let's go 4 more like this. We come forward to the hover, and push all the way up. Ideally, what we're feeling is that every rep, we're getting that little bit looser. And you can maybe get your heels a little lower, your hips a little higher. 2 more here. Bending. And extending. 1 more. Bending. And extending. Hold that extension, push those heels down, hips up, knees are bent if you need them to be. You're pulling your hips back over your heels as much as you can for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. If you can, walk your hands into your feet, come into your regular forward fold. So if you're feeling pretty flexible here, you're probably just keeping your back as straight as you can and relaxing forward. If this feels impossible, bend your knees, support yourself with your hands, and what you're going to do is create space in your back, lengthen your spine, keep your knees bent, and think that the bottom of your rib cage is trying to touch your knees. The goal of this is to re-extend your back versus kind of being stuck here. So think you're sticking your butt out, you're lengthening forward. So you're getting a real stretch through the backs of the legs. If you're feeling back at the knee, I need you to bend your knees. That's not where we want to feel this. Breathing into it, create a little more space. I like to think like someone's literally pulling my rib cage away from my hips. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shake it out, standing up. So we're going to try one more active mobility drill, and then we're going to go into more passive stretches. So this one, you want to have a little bit of space in front of you. You're going to extend one leg out in front of you. You're going to bend the supporting leg. You're going to swoop the arms down, reach past the foot, step the feet together. You have the option where you can swoop, step forward, swoop, step forward, or if you're in a New York City apartment, swoop, feet together, swoop, feet together. Now, as I'm doing this, check that you're not rounding forward like this. You're sticking your butt back, reaching, recover, reach, recover. So this is an active hamstring stretch. Now, you're better off going a little higher up if you can get the angle of your pelvis right up here, and then we'll just work on getting it lower. Perfect. You'll often see runners on the West Side Highway doing this one. It's a pretty good warm up for those hamstrings. Go 6, 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. And relax, shake it out. So let's go for some more passive stretches. The first approach is single leg work instead of double leg work. So I'm going to bring you down to the ground. You might even want to take a yoga block and place that yoga block under your hips just to lift you up a little higher. One leg is going to straighten all the way out. You're going to angle your body towards a straight leg, stick your butt back behind you, and think about reaching forward over that left leg. Since it's one leg, you might find you are able to go down a little further than if it was double. And you want to make sure that you're not rounding your back like this. Another option, bring your hands behind you, lift your chest up, and just think that you're trying to elongate your spine over that leg. Now, a passive stretch like this, you want to hold for 30 seconds to a minute and a half, 2 minutes max. So listen to your body, but try to make sure that we actually hold it for the full 30 seconds. Otherwise, we're not actually going to see the flexibility improvement from it. Perfect. If it starts to get a little uncomfortable, bend the knee, extend the knee, go back into it. Feel free to kind of pull back from the stretch, then dive back down. The stretch resistance should be like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It should feel like you've got more in the tank. If you're killing yourself to get to this point, I want you to pull back slightly. Go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's try the other side. Bend the leg in. This other bent leg can kind of just go wherever it's comfortable. If this isn't feasible with your knee, it might be better to do out to the side. You're going to shift your weight over, gently leaning forward, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. I like to think as I inhale that I'm actually breathing into the muscle that I'm stretching, and then as I exhale, I'm exhaling out of the muscle that's stretching, which makes no sense anatomically, but what it does allow you to do is kind of send that energy into that muscle and then help you release it as you exhale. If you can, try to sink that little bit deeper for me, but if you're feeling your back more than your leg, sit back up and focus more on your pelvis. You're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Last one. So if you are more flexible, as in if you can sit up pretty strong here and pretty comfortably, you might just want to do this stretch all the way upright, grabbing onto your ankles and diving forward. I also like to take a yoga block, hold onto that yoga block, and I keep sliding that yoga block away from me. If this is not accessible to you yet, what we're better off doing is lying down on your back, because the ground is going to keep your back totally flat, and we can focus just on lifting that one leg up towards the ceiling. To start, this might be enough for you, but if you want to make it a little harder, try grabbing the back of the leg and pulling it in towards you. You're trying to think about lengthening the back of the leg, and I don't want my hips to tuck under or lift. I'm sticking my butt down to the ground, and I'm lengthening from here. So think that the goal isn't to kick your face, the goal is to feel the stretch. So as long as you're feeling the stretch in the right place, you're doing good for your body. But if you're feeling your back, it's likely that your hips have lifted a little and you want to push them down again. It might be that you can't quite grab your leg yet, and we might use a band or a rope or grab a little lower down the thigh so that you can get that stretch. If you need a distraction, point and flex. It's also helpful to have a timer around. Decide how long you want to do on each side. So pick any time from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on how much time you have. And let's try the other side. Other leg comes up. There's likely going to be one leg that's a lot more flexible than the other. That's very common. Now think tailbone is heavy, shoulders are open, pulling that leg in towards you. If you start to feel your hips lift up, push them back down. Maybe that leg moves a little further away. And think you're sticking your butt down to the ground, pulling that leg into your chest, creating that length. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. We can point and flex, do whatever you need on this side. We have 10 more seconds here. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Basically, they're simple, but they're effective. And the trick to hamstring stretches, or any stretch or any goal, is just to focus on it. So give it 30 days where you're going to do those stretches every day, or 30 days where you do those stretches every second day. And just consistently working through them is how your body's going to finally loosen up. If you stretch your hamstrings all the time and are still struggling with letting them release, we could be running into more of a strength issue. So that's when those warm-up glute bridges can really help us. That's where deadlifts can really help us. But I'd recommend trying doing that series every day for about 30 days and then checking back in and seeing how you're feeling, and then we can go from there.